So we're going to do this video in levels. We're going to start with level 1, which is probably what you need to hear if you're kind of new to this stuff, new to sexual discipline. And then we're going to go into some deeper stuff. So level 1, the way that you conquer lust is you just get really serious about desexualizing your mind. So if you don't know what this means, what you may find yourself in is like a very low standard of sexual discipline. You don't even really use that word or that phrase. No one's ever taught you that phrase. You don't even know what that means. It's kind of like a lofty ideal that maybe you hear in a video like mine. But you know that really your standard is quite low. Maybe sometimes you feel kind of pathetic, feel kind of crap. Like, man, I really am not in control of myself sexually. And I feel bad about that, and I don't feel like a man. So that's why, I recommend that you begin by just recognizing, oh, my mind is highly sexualized. I think about having sex with every woman I see, and I don't appreciate the lack of control I have over my mind. I notice that lust runs me. So that's where you're going to start out, man, and I want to let you know that that's completely okay. I literally spent years in this place, like conscious that I was there. And then, when the time is right, I became more serious and I moved up the levels. And we're going to, talk about these levels too. So first things first, man, just become very, very aware that your mind needs to be desexualized before you even try to overcome lust. Because nothing's going to work. It's like pissing in the wind. So maturity is just stopping here, stopping this video here and saying, okay, Brother Seb, thank you. Thank you. I will now look into how to desexualize my mind. I will now become very serious about this. I will respect what I've just learned here. Yeah, that's all you need, okay? You can go now. All right, but stay if you want to know more. But yeah, for most of you guys, that's what you need to hear, okay? Now, the reality is, man, you actually can conquer lust. You actually can. And I can share with you how. So I'm going to now share with you a technique that you can use. Let's say you spent 90 days, no PMO. And that, if you don't know what that means, it means pornography, masturbation, orgasm. The vicious cycle that we all fall into when we're lustful and we have this technology, here. So when you have cleaned your mind out and your soul emerges, you feel like who you actually are, you will then be able to actually start doing this. Because before you're actually just playing like this game of being asleep, being sexually tempted by everything, and then every few days just going back. Now, if we're really honest, man, that's not doing this work, is it? It's actually just being very, very complacent and completely unserious. And for me to honor this work, and for you to honor this work, we've actually got to kind of call ourselves out. We've got to say, man, you're right. I see how you've prefaced this entire video, even just with this intro of, interesting. I've got to desexualize my mind. But let's say you have done that. And I know some of you guys have done that. And, you get out of a month and you're like, holy crap, I did it. To begin with, man, a month seems like a mountain, a huge mountain, like, God, 30 days. But it's true. You get out a month and you kind of, you forget about nofab, you forget about retention, you just live your life as the man that you are, or as the woman that you are. And then, maybe if you're disciplined enough, you can get to 60 days and 90 days. And really, man, 90 days is where I see, at least in my own life, that's where I saw my mind beginning to reboot. I found myself beginning to kind of come back more meaningfully. Because really, man, another truth you should know is none of this means anything unless you actually have long-term progress. So if you're still doing like streaks of like a few days or a week or a few weeks, like, I'll be honest, you're not serious. And you need to tell yourself, oh, I'm not serious. I'm not going to get any good results because I'm not serious. Do you see? So when you listen to these videos, you got to be honest, man, about where you are. So I'm speaking to a more serious part of you, a part of you that knows, holy crap, dude, I need to become sexually disciplined so that I can live the rest of my life. Because I know my potential, and I know, what's good in life: energy, confidence, being out of my own way, not being anxious all the time. That was one of my biggest motivators, man, just not being anxious. God, So, let's say you have achieved this point of 90 days of discipline. And really, man, we're going to introduce the word here: transformation. You've started the transformation. And I say, this 90 days as the beginning of the transformation, not the full transformation, because really this is just getting you out of the fog. Just lifting you up and having your soul come like, it's like your head peeks out of water and, you've surfaced. Seb was right the whole time. I just needed to stop wanking. I just needed to listen to my soul and apply sexual discipline. So now, man, you're feeling maybe much more confident. You're feeling more grateful for life. You're feeling empowered. And now you're at this level of, you know what you're doing. You practice retention. You don't even think about pornography because that was your old self and your old life. And now you're kind of wondering, man, like, I'm still getting a lot of lust though. I'm still experiencing a lot of desires and temptations. And you're like, man, there's like a whole next level to this. And even then, it's not even that high of a level. You're like, man, like, mastery of this would require, years of inner work and transformation. Damn. But you're like, man, how do I conquer or overcome or transcend this lust that seems to be so persistent? Well, I'm going to share with you how you can do that. The first thing I would say, man, is, in fact, I'm just gonna give you like the easiest stuff, because I think we're building up here. We're progressing in terms of maturity and so on. Here is a technique that you can use, that I use almost every day, especially if I go outside. The technique is, when you see a woman, and almost any woman, dude, because you're so lustful, you actually project sex onto pretty much any woman. You'll even be like, Jesus, man, I'm attracted to like everyone, especially if you're coming out of like the PMO stuff. Like you bro, I used to think about having sex with absolutely every single kind of woman, especially unattractive women. There were, full transparency, man, and I hope this doesn't get us too off track, but like literally, man, there was just this 42-year-old Indian woman who lived down my road who like would walk past me, and I'd be like, oh bro, I'm gonna do it at one point. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make it happen. Bro, do you see how ungrounded the mind is? You're just completely in fantasy, which is why I say, bro, don't even think about doing any of this until you're like 90 days clean of no pornography. And again, you don't need to be retaining that whole time. Just retain like most of the time. Let me be more clear, man. Retain for like a month, and then naturally release without any lust. And again, I'll make videos on how to do that in the future. And then when you see that woman down your road, you're not going to be seeing her as a sexual object or a sexual fantasy, should I say. You're just steeped in fantasy before the 90 days. So, yeah, now for the technique. When you see a woman, or if you're gay, if you see a guy that you like, when you see a person and you immediately see, uh-oh, I'm attracted to them, what I want you to do is place your hand on your heart. And you say, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. You see them. You feel the temptation. You immediately become conscious. You place your hand on your heart and you say, no, thank you. In that moment, you embody the high consciousness masculine. In that moment, you are being the man within you. Think about who you would become if you did this practice every single time you ever saw a woman. And sometimes it's very subtle, man. I'm out with, my brother, my best friend, Fair Dan. And, I can't just always place my hand on my heart, although a lot of the time I do. But, you can't because you're doing stuff. You're in the social sphere, right? You have to do this silently, subtly, and inwardly. So this is the practice that I want you to start doing. And you might wonder why? Why? Because if you just go about this, man, if you listen to this and you apply this mechanically, it's not going to work. Precisely because your heart space, your center, your chakra here, your heart, brother, it's not mechanical. It's spiritual. As you place your hand on your heart, you're activating love. You're activating compassion, empathy, higher consciousness, your soul. Listen to me here. This is the only way that you will overcome lust. By becoming very, very conscious to the point where you become good. You cannot and will not overcome lust as your ego. Because your ego will always want the sex. And that's okay. Don't try and change that, man. Instead, love your ego. Be honest about your sexual desires. And go beyond them by integrating them and saying, no, I am love. I am my soul. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here because that's, even later down the line here. I want you to do this technique and I want you to see that it actually works. Why? Because immediately you start to notice that every single time that you see a woman or a man that you're attracted to, you can actually trigger self-reflective thought and observation. And you can basically always see like, whoa, I was about to lust there, and now I'm not going to. And maybe you do a little bit. And that's okay too, man. In my own journey, bro, even now, sometimes I still choose to look. And for a long time, about 3-4 years ago, I would actually always look, but I would look really consciously. And you know why I had to look, man? I looked because I just had to really finally say, listen, man, if I'm going to overcome this forever, or you could say outgrow it, outmature it, because you never really overcome it because it's always there. But if I'm going to really, seriously transcend this, I need to just get it all the way. I need to really see that it's not it. So what I would do is, especially when I was going to the gym, is I would see women in their leggings, and you know how it is, man. Like that's like a magnet for your eyes. And I would actually always consciously look, not always, but nearly always consciously look at her butt, at her curves, at her legs, at her boobs. And then I just kind of do it as consciously as I could. And I just do it until my soul emerges. And then I'd have a point where I'd be like, oh, my idea of seeing the bum, was actually more powerful than me seeing it. Because now I'm seeing it and it's like, it's definitely nice. But it's not like God. It's not the end all. It's not it. And that's what you'll start to notice, man. You'll start to notice that lust, again, this is a bit too deep, I'm sorry. Lust, it seems to like offer you these two deep things. Number one, a distraction from God. But number two, an invitation to God. A distraction is obvious, man. You know that one well, so do I. But the invitation is like, let's say you were to, really look, and maybe you've had this, man. Maybe you're having sex with someone, and you're actually like really just paying attention to their body. I did this years ago, man. Even when I first started having sex, I just was like looking at the woman's body, like, is this it? Like, is this it? It's not it. I know it goes deep in this in life, right? You just know that intuitively. So this is why, as you're growing on this path and slowly maturing, you want to allow yourself to look until you're ready to say, no thank you. No thank you. Place your hand on your heart, close your eyes if you need to, and say, no thank you. No thank you. And check this out, man. What happens in that moment as well? Strength. You gain spiritual strength. This is how you become a conscious human being. Because you cultivate such strength by the regular practice of sexual discipline. So, let's move on to the third layer of this. The third layer of this is becoming so awake of your lust and of what it means to be a human. When you are awake and you're being mature about how you're alive, and you're naturally a very sexual being, highly sexual, way more sexual than anyone's ever given you permission to be or told you that you can be. You're actually just sexual energy itself. Now, it's important to say, man, if you've never made it out of like 90 days of no PMO, you don't know what this means. I mean, actually you do. As a child, you actually were a very sexual being as a child. You didn't know that though. So, again, that's why, before anything, just completely desexualize your mind. I'm really trying to reiterate that, because unless you do that, man, none of this means anything. Seriously, none of it means anything. Now, let's continue, man. What does it mean to be awake? You ready, man? Being awake means you become so conscious of how the part of you that wants to lust, it's actually evil. Now some Christian dude is listening, is like, yep, Jesus died for our sins, he were evil. Bro, no, shut the fuck up. Okay, no. I mean evil in a very subtle way. Evil just means you're a selfish human being. You need to survive, and so you have these survival needs. You're needy, you're selfish. This is what it means to be evil. Whereas to be good is to literally be spiritual, to be selfless, to be godly, to be holy, to be pious, to be righteous, to be moral. The third level is becoming profoundly aware that this is how you overcome lust. You don't conquer it per se. Only the ego would try to do that. You see it. You see it. You place the light of your consciousness on it. And you start to transform with the knowledge that you were a very selfish person, a very immoral person, very evil. But now you're becoming good. Do you see how I couldn't have started this video by saying, by the way, man, the way that you overcome lust, you just be good. Now, I could have, but I wouldn't be honoring my full wisdom. And I want to speak on this, man. This evil, it will make you really sad. You know, only a few people, but I've actually reached out to a few girls that I used to spend time with, and I actually apologized. Now I since stopped, and I only did this for with a few people because I realized I actually can't do this because I'm not meant to do this, because life is that when you're young and you're stupid, you just you act selfishly. But when you become really conscious of how selfish you were and how selfish you've been, it will really disturb you. It will really make you sad, bro. It'll make your soul cry. Because you realize you were being so selfish. So selfish, man. And this is moral development. Becoming aware of this and becoming aware of your emotions and the truth. Do you see? Bro, who else has done this work? You'll sit there, man, and you'll be aware, you'll feel almost embarrassed, just oh God, wow. I can't believe I used to do that. I can't believe I used to be so lustful. And just... There's someone at my door, man. Oh, man, are they on... Okay, they're on time. I'll be back, bro. 2 secs. Oh, okay, man, I'm back. So, yeah, brother, listen. What you end up doing is this, this really deep, emotionally honest introspection where you just see it, man, and you're like, oh God, I don't even know if I can see all of this because it's just so much. There's so much evil here and so much ego here. Oh, brother, you just got to hang in there as you see it. You'll literally encounter the devil, actually. Again, so this is going to speak to that Christian guy. It's so funny, man, because as I become radically spiritual and mystical, I will sound religious. So I'll use religious language because it's true, but it'll probably attract certain religious people, which is really funny. But I actually understand religious people, and if you are a religious person, then that's great. You're probably closer to this truth than someone who isn't. So respect. What do you do to meaningfully overcome the lust from this third level perspective, from doing from the real deep inner work perspective? What do you do? Yeah, man, so I recommend from this place of real true morality and goodness, you actually begin to see deeper layers of the person who you were previously lusting towards. So the best example is if you're looking at a man or a woman that you find attractive. Notice you can look at them and you can completely not see them, and you can just project your lust. Right? That's what happens when we're doing this unconsciously. But notice, man, if you're more aware and more conscious, which is why it's so important to do the spiritual work along with your work on sexual discipline, because when you have higher consciousness, you can see more, you're aware of more. And especially the emotional dimension to the work means that you have unlocked in yourself the inner child. You know what this feels like. You know what this looks like. Everyone has it. And you start to see things like the inner child. So, I'll give you an example. I sometimes when I go into like a shop, and maybe there's like a young, cute shop worker, maybe like stacking shelves or something, I don't know, man, or behind the till, I don't know. And at first I'm like, she's kind of cute. And I'm like, interesting, you know, and I'm looking at her hair, I'm looking at like her legs, and you know how it is, man. But then I catch myself, and I actually look at the woman in the eyes, and I'm like, oh man, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. Do you see? Because you feel so bad because you're actually just not interacting with her at all. But it's deeper than that. Like, dude, there's a human being there. But it's deeper than that. There's a soul. You could say there's a fourth level to this, which is this. The way that you overcome lust, not only do you do the things we've mentioned, you become a father. You embody father consciousness. What does this mean? Dude, listen. I am not a dad yet. I'm way too young, and this is years and years away. But I can intuitively tell that when you become a father, your psychology changes. This is deeply wired into the design of being a dad or even a mum. Something changes where you just unconditionally love your child, and you just love them. When you take this work so seriously, you start to feel more like a parent, a divine parent to all people and all beings. So if you're a guy, which you probably are, you start to take on father consciousness. You start to feel what it's like to be a dad, like an actual man who has a child. And here it is, man. When you look at women, you see a child. You see a child of God. Because you see this, when you're actually being serious with yourself, you'd be like, it would be absurd to be lustful here. Now, it's really important for me to mention, I understand. Our minds are so messed up and so weird, especially if you have PMO and pornography floating about and, distorting your mind, that, like, you might even say, no, bro, like, Seb, like, when you mention father, I'm actually just going into more lust. You might be like, bro, yeah, oh yeah, like father, daughter, bro, no, don't do that, man. Like, Jesus Christ, bro. I've watched so much pornography that I wouldn't want, step-mum. No, bro. I'd want biological mum. Like, if you aren't, even that is nothing. I haven't spoken about, like the deepest, darkest things, because I don't know if I can. But, like, all I'm going to say, man, is okay? you know. And the more aware you become as a human being, you're like, oh, whoa, that's weird. And you kind of just live with it. But anyway, man, but back to the main point here. You see the deepest transformation in yourself when you are willing to mature yourself, to become like a father. Because then, that which is looking out of your own eyes is the divine masculine. It is ultimately it is God. Because it is morality, and it is integrity, and it is goodness. When you embody this, then all of your problems with lust will fall away naturally. Now, let me tell you honestly, it's very important for me to tell you this extra layer of honesty and truth. I embody this stuff. As you can see, this is my work. I still experience lust. I still am tempted. And dude, I'm never going to try and get rid of that. Because again, that's part of the design of being a human being. You just love it more and more by seeing it more and more, and by maturing yourself more and more and developing yourself more and more into that father who has natural integrity, goodness, morality. He's a beautiful man because he's good. So, younger people who maybe are watching this video or this channel who are less developed will maybe place me on a pedestal. Now that's not wise, and that's not true, because although I've done more work here on this area, significantly more than most other people, because I've needed to, it's just my path. Don't think that it ever goes away, because it doesn't. Your relationship just changes profoundly. And that's what you're looking to create. A high consciousness relationship with lust, with sexuality. That word is very, very key there, with. It includes, it's saying, hey, you can come here, you can be here. You make it okay. And that's how you conquer lust. You make it okay and you love it. So, I am so grateful to be showing you who I am and to be speaking on this topic. This is who I am, and I can help you understand that lust is normal and that it's always going to be there to some extent, and that you can attain very high levels of moral development that mean that you don't lust anymore, but rather you witness your lust and you let it be there. And because, you're so evolved and conscious of this, it really doesn't have a grip on you. It really doesn't bother you or control you. And that's what I want to say here at the end. You regain self-control, and you now have spiritual control. You're able to use consciousness. And because you have this, you make the right decisions. And because you make the right decisions, you know how it is, man, positive feedback loop. You get more discipline, more purity, more momentum, and goodness in your heart. Your heart purifies because you're no longer serving that selfish, egoic, lustful part. You just love it and you say, no thank you, no thank you. You serve God instead. As a result, you become a holy, righteous, beautiful human being. And you can then understand why, if someone were to ask you, hey man, how do I work on my lust? Like, bro, what can I possibly say to you in a sentence that would answer that? You need to watch this video. Okay, man. Thank you for hearing this and seeing me like this as who I am. It's very special. we're going to end the video here with the message that I don't really know who else I can point you to who's going to be able to help you at this depth. And so if you actually want to overcome lust, not superficially, not temporarily, if you actually want to improve in this area, and you actually just want to become this effortless, sexually disciplined man or woman, you can work with me one-to-one. That is because I offer coaching and I offer mentoring. If you're interested in that service, you can see the link in the description. You can see my website, and we can go from there. My heart wants me to say like one more thing, so I'll say one more teeny tiny thing. Dude, I'm just like you. I'm not different than you. I've just done some work, and it means I can communicate this to you. But I am a human, just like you, which you already know. We're gonna wrap things up here now. Dude, lots of love. Take care. And as always, man, peace.